Hi team, welcome to the Kindness, Curiosity and Comfortable Shoes podcast. My name is JMACeducation and this is an ongoing toolkit for all healthcare staff. Whether you are a porter or a paediatrician, a domestic or a driver, clinical or non-clinical, just starting or just finishing your work in healthcare, this podcast aims to give you some useful thoughts about working for this amazing business to get you through your day. Thank you so much for listening. I hope these thoughts are useful and the podcast is fulfilling its purpose as a toolkit for all healthcare workers. So before we start, if you enjoy listening to this podcast, please tell other people, tell your co-workers, share what you like about it. Go on, put it in your work WhatsApp group. Go on, do it now, then it's done. And feel free to follow at JMACeducation on Facebook, X, Instagram, LinkedIn, Threads, whatever your social media preference is, and you'll get more information related to the podcasts and other JMACeducation updates. Thank you. Hello, and thank you for listening to the Kindness, Curiosity and Comfortable Shoes podcast. This episode is entitled Refocus because I am going to be pausing this podcast just to refocus some things in my working life and the trajectory of JMACeducation. So, as the last podcast for a while in Kindness, Curiosity and Comfortable Shoes, I thought it would be interesting to discuss what you need to refocus on. I think it's easy for work, and I guess the NHS probably isn't alone in this, that for any aspect of work you will have a number of tasks, projects, commitments that just seem to keep on expanding with very few things falling off the other end. And in my mind, it happens for three reasons. Firstly, you may be doing work that you are interested in. Clearly, that's the most joyful work if it's powered from within. Secondly, there may be work that you feel you ought to do that is a part of your role, part of your job description. And finally, there may be work that is delegated to you, and perhaps that's the area of work that we will engage least well with. And for those aspects of work, there's often no specific end date or time. And I guess even for a project that you think's completed, someone will come back and want you to reassess, re-audit, update the team. I think this happened a lot to me when I was in my consultant career and having to investigate incidents. And suddenly you'd find that something landed in your inbox that needed a lot of unexpected work. Need to rearrange my time around that to fit in with certain deadlines. I guess I quite like the challenge of that suddenly turning up, and definitely feel a sense of accomplishment once it was completed, once I had filled in all the appropriate forms for the investigation, spoken to the key people, fed back to other people involved in the incident, presented at various committees, and then suddenly it would go quiet. And then insanely months and sometimes years down the line, because my name was still attached to a project, more work would appear for it. If you end up in a situation where there's suddenly more work, whether it is driven by yourself or externally, I think it's useful to spend some time thinking about the answer to two specific questions. Firstly, what is important? And secondly, what are your values? That kind of internal importance, I guess. So what's important? The things that may be important to your role, to your department, to the people that you report to, your seniors. Clearly in the NHS, it may well be your patients. Understanding what is important to them will help you focus on how to manage tasks. And secondly, as I say, what are your values? To work out the specifics about what is important to you. How does this new piece of work align with the values that I hold, the things that I want to be doing and progressing in my career? So two useful questions to help you update your goals. And when there's something that you are adding in, if it does align with your values and importance, then there needs to be something else that goes, something that comes off the other end, because you can't keep exponentially adding to your workload. So if there's something that you are asked to do, and you know you have to do it for whatever reason that may be, think, how does that affect your current workload and your current goals? And if appropriate, you may have to ask, okay, if I take this new task on, what shall I stop doing so I can focus on that task? It's a question that we often feel bad about asking, maybe embarrassed about asking, but we can't keep adding to our workload. So there's new things that we need to do. What do we need to stop doing? It's something we commonly felt in the emergency department when new aspects of clinical care were added to our workload from the numerous specialties that we work with. We often have meetings or discussions. There's just this one thing we need to add for this one group of patients. And by itself, it's quite a small aspect maybe. But we felt, and it's probably the same in every specialty, you interact with a lot of different specialties, mean lots of different things happen across the board that add to that workload. So it may be helpful to ask, well, that's fine, we can focus on this area, but that means by doing that and doing that well, we will have less time to focus on other areas that previously have been important. So what is it that we are going to decide we're going to stop doing so we can focus on this new task? Really nice to air those thoughts rather than for other areas of care and workload to deteriorate because we have a new focus. And whether we have to do that or not, there are always going to be critics. There are always going to be people who are discussing, hopefully with yourself, but possibly to others about your work. Well, why have you stopped? Why is this not important anymore? So it's nice to have a reason behind any shift in what you do. Really nice to lean into that autonomy, and if that change is questioned, that you stand by your decision and are comfortable with how you are managing your own workload. That's really key to satisfaction at work, having that autonomy. So for me and the KCC podcast, I've loved doing this podcast, and from the feedback I get, it appears it is useful and interesting for many of you, and it is going to continue in some form in the future. But for now, I'm refocusing what I do as part of JMACeducation, and I've been conscious that Kindness, Curiosity and Comfortable Shoes as a podcast is quite a wide remit, and I set it up to explore podcasting as an educational medium. What I'm going to be doing over the next few months is really focusing on producing content and resources to help those specifically in education, in healthcare. So that may well apply to you. So if you are involved in any teaching or education, as I said on the education episode, I think that it should really be all of us. There will be some things that you'll find on the social media updates and various things that I'm going to produce to help you progress and understand a bit more about education without necessarily going down a full formal qualification. So please keep up to date with at JMACeducation to find out more about that, and please keep subscribed to the Kindness, Curiosity and Comfortable Shoes podcast so you will be alerted to when the next episode is published. And thank you all very much for listening. Thank you for listening today. There are links in the show notes for information that I've referred to in the show. And if you enjoyed the show and want to help the podcast grow and expand, then please support me and the show and head to buymeacoffee.com/JMACeducation. That's buymeacoffee, all one word, .com/JMACeducation, and support the podcast there. Or if you're listening on the podcast website at kccpodcast.buzzsprout.com, click on the heart on the top right of the page, or click on the support the show link in the show notes. It's also really helpful for me if you rate, review, like, follow, share, subscribe, whatever's appropriate on whichever platform you're listening on. Again, it really does help grow the show. Thank you. So please take care of yourselves out there. You are doing a great job. And remember, be kind, be curious, and don't forget your comfortable shoes. Thank you to JMACeducation for the music, downloaded through Audio Jungle. Thank you to Beth for the artwork and the photo, produced through Canva. And thank you to Buzzsprout for hosting the podcast. The Kindness, Curiosity and Comfortable Shoes podcast is a JMACeducation production.